realms to save sentient beings. So the initial verse. Love knows neither near nor far when we connect our hearts and efforts. Okay, let's look at this. Near nor far. That's equanimity. Okay. So when equanimity, and that's the basis of that great love. Now, those who've been listening to the past few sessions that I've shared, I think the problem with us in our hearts is that we have boundaries, we have lines drawn. So when we have lines drawn, we do not venture beyond the line. So it's very easy to love someone who is near, and we are not, obviously then we are very averse to the far. So as a result of which, those who are close to earth will love. So that's why there's a difference between a worshipper and a cultivator. So when a worshipper goes to the temple, they will pray for their loved ones. A cultivator will see beyond that and try to expand beyond the heart. And obviously, then they will obviously pray for all sentient beings. So in the same way, in walking Bodhisattva path, that we would actually help and serve those people whom we do not even know. So the work for all sentient beings, like great awakened beings, the work for all sentient beings. So therefore, we will render our care, our help, and serving those in need. And that's what great awakened ones, awakened beings do. But then, awakened beings do not just look at the human realm. There are 6 realms, right? So then what about animal realm? What about all the other realm? So therefore, but we are just householder in practice. It's already difficult to help beings, human beings. What about the other realms? That's the reason why for Tzu Chi that Master has been promoting is to go on a plant-based diet. And I think not everybody can change a plant-based diet overnight, but obviously we must undertake a gradual change. So this is obviously, if you analyze it, we can talk a lot about this. There's a lot of profound Dharma within this line. So let us fill the world with great love and boundless great vows. So fill the world with great love and boundless great vows. Now that's a part that when we start to expand our heart from near to far, and after that, neither near nor far. That means the boundary is already totally gone. So when we start the journey, like I said, it's easy to love those that are near, then we expand to far, and then neither near nor far, meaning you're totally equanimous, you do not even discriminate anything at all. So when we feel the world with great love and boundless great vows, so the boundless great vows, and with that state of equanimity, obviously then we become boundless. And these great vows and the 4 Bodhisattva vows that we have. So we have deep faith in the Tathagata, and because he has crossed the state of enlightenment, so we know that that is the truth, that is a universal truth. Therefore, we can open the door of the Dharma, we walk into the door of Dharma with great faith. And that faith should be in the 3rd of the 4 Bodhisattva vows, because you are entering the door of the Dharma, that he teaches the truth through the provisional. And then become why provisional? Because we started because of the linear capabilities until the great vehicle teaching was given towards the last stage. So in Master's explanation, love is what the world cannot lack. And this is what it is, because a lot of conflicts which is happening in the world is because of the boundary lines that we have. I mean, you look at it. I mean, that's the worldly life. Even in the countries, we have boundary lines. Even within the country, the states, we have boundary lines. And within the state, we got the straight line. So during the MCO period, you can't even cross this district. But the district could be just next to you. I was told that even one house is straddled between two districts, crossing the kitchen from the kitchen to the dining hall. He reads approval. So these are the lines, that imaginary boundaries and lines that we have. I can tell you another story about the water. And you see, a river that doesn't respect any boundaries. It crosses from one state to the other. A good example is River Rhine. River Rhine crosses countries, and the moment we hold on to these boundaries, we can the country, when upstream, enjoys clean water and doesn't care and discharge wastewater in the downstream, and the poor next country will have to deal with it, with polluted water, and they have to rely on the river to extract water. That's why in Europe, they recognize that, and they took on an initiative to clean up River Rhine. And so in the same way, we already got problems within, if you notice, you read the media, there's a big issue between Penang and Kedah, because Sungai Muda flows from Kedah and part of the river flows through Penang, and where they abstract the water from. So in much of the same way in the human beings, and this is the worldly world, and this is called the worldly convention that we live in, and unconsciously, and that's the way it works. Right, so we have passport when we travel, and that's where we are. When you reach another country, you're not regarded as one of them, and it's even more so now when we're getting more and more divided because of differences in ideology and so on and so forth. So therefore, despite all these things, we have, and this is the Dharma degenerating age, right? And because it is the Dharma degenerating age, we would have to go through this. But more importantly is that we must, in our mind, we must be conscious between what is the worldly mind and what is the spiritual mind. And so therefore, the worldly consciousness and the spiritual consciousness, so long as we have that with us all the time, and we abide, we don't have a choice. We have to abide by worldly conventions. But the question point is, your consciousness does not necessarily abide to worldly consciousness. So you rise above that. You abide by the spiritual consciousness. So when you can live a worldly life, but you abide in the spiritual consciousness. So good relationships come from affinities in the past and are thus helpful in this lifetime. And we have to build good relationship because it takes away those boundaries. And therefore, when we take away those boundaries, we crystallize good affinities. And bad affinities could strengthen our spiritual aspirations. So whatever bad affinities we may have right now, so we have the aspiration of ours that we have. Therefore, we got to make good those bad affinities. So therefore, it gives us a chance for us to resolve whatever bad affinities we have with people. So as spiritual practitioners, whether good or bad affinities, we must always open up our loving and our grateful hearts for those whom we meet. So this story of King Ajatasattu, I often hear her name described as Ajatasattu. King Ajatasattu was actually the son of King Bimimsara. I'm sure you heard of King Bimimsara and many of the stories. And the affinity between Buddha and King Bimimsara was this. When Buddha left the kingdom, he knew that the father would send soldiers to go look for him. So he was actually, that's where he met King Bimimsara. And at that time, Ajatasattu was really a young boy. And so when King Bimimsara, he established that affinity, and he knew that King Bimimsara's kingdom was a strong kingdom, was even bigger than the father's kingdom. So that's why he couldn't, he took shelter there. But when Buddha attained enlightenment, obviously King Bimimsara, because of the affinity he had, he became a very a staunch Buddhist, if you like. So, but there was, when King Ajatasattu, the son, came up, there was obviously he was very ambitious, and especially when he was being incited, as that's the story that I've been told. He was being incited by Devadatta. So Ajatasattu then overtook the throne and put the father to jail. So Bimbisara was put to jail, and he only had one request. And his request was, because he followed the Buddha's teaching and he found peace in that, he asked to have a window, I think facing Jetavana, or Jetavana, or the Jeta Grove, as being described in the transcript. So Ajatasattu was obviously a very impulsive warrior and will fight and beat every king that he was young. But then neighboring kingdom, this king Prasanajit, obviously to him, Ajatasattu was like a nephew. But despite that, obviously Ajatasattu got defeated, and he was then sent. He was very kind of Prasanajit to actually send King Ajatasattu to learn the Dharma, which he did. Later part in life, King Ajatasattu actually embraced Buddhism. And you may have heard of a story, right? You heard of a story sometime last year when Master mentioned about the light offering of this poor lady, and he didn't have money to offer light. And she had to cut off her hair so how much she can and had a small light, but I let the small light burn on for a long time. And but King Ajatasattu and the rest obviously offer a lot of great lights, but that small light outlasted every light. So that's another different story. But the point is, then Ajatasattu actually then embraced the Dharma, and but then the poor father was still imprisoned. But then there's also the story that there was also a retribution for King Bimbisara, because King Bimbisara himself ousted the father and put him to jail. So all this karmic retribution came about. Is part of forgiving. To see, even for your enemies who come and hurt you and harm you, you must be able to forgive. And same goes for us in our life, especially our householders, right? We're householders, we've got businesses, we have to deal with matters which, because we have to deal with worldly matters, we hold on to our own boundaries. And when you hold on to boundaries, inevitably, we may end up hurting somebody. And so more importantly is that when people do us in, we must be able to not be afflicted by it and be forgiving. So, seeing sentient beings, King Ajatasattu wanted and pursued was not only the things in front of his eyes, and he hoped that the lands would be his. These are afflictions of form, and this is about the skandhas, isn't it? So when we're 6 roots, and our eyes can see, when you're a king, you're riding up there, you need to expand your kingdom. So when you see other people's land, and what as far as eyes can see, so you get afflicted to the form, and that's mine. So, and that's a desire of the heart that arises. When the desire of the heart arises, and you see the king who is on the other side of the land, that arouses your emotion. So the emotion arises, and then with this desirous thoughts, and that's why war happens. And you can see it even today. When another country rises, who may be doing well more than you, and you want the country to go down. So you find all sorts of devious ways to suppress the country. So on the surface, we seem to be free from desires on others. However, although we are not fighting, we still hold grudges in our hearts. So sometimes when this is all about sincerity. So when we undertake to say forgive somebody and say, "Look, I drop all my desires," but then there's a lot of grudges in our hearts, and these grudges in our hearts will arise when we do not forgive sincerely. That's why more often than not, the word is often used, it being merciful. So being merciful means you see someone who is weaker than you, and you do not step on that person. right? You pull the person up. You not only forgive, you actually put your helping hand and pull the person up. Only true principles can save people, and these true principles are the hope that these true principles could spread amongst the people. And he wanted to help return balance to this world and help tame and train people's mind. And obviously, the Buddha Dharma have done that through this more than 1,000 years. But we have now reached the stage of this Dharma degenerating age. So we are at the age of this when the period of the Dharma is still around. So therefore, it is important for us, firstly, to be able to embrace the Dharma sincerely, steadfastly, so that we can help others to understand the Dharma. So understand what the karma created in this impermanent world will last as long as we do not settle. So long as we do not settle this karma that we have, it will still be there because as you all know, the eight consciousness, the karmic seeds will be there when the conditions are right. They will manifest. So as long as they bring this karma with them in the future, they will continue to replicate the affliction and karmic causes. So if this continues in the future, the world will never be safe and stable. So we can only get worse. So this one process Johnny wanted to do just awaken to the ways of the way of the Buddha, and be able to know so that karma that he has created would not carry on to the next life. So in the same way that for us as a householder in practice, so whatever bad affinity that we may have, important thing is, number one, you must be able to learn to accept it. Number two, you do not create a negative reaction arising from that. You accept it, and you can accept it quietly, and obviously, if whatever needs to be done for you to have you to settle the karmic scores, go ahead and do that. But sometimes I've been asked by, I say, look, in what you call that, at work. And so very often, maybe in work, in school, in socializing, you come across sometimes quarrels and breakups with people. So I think the least you can do is try to pray for them, pray for your enemies. I mean, especially in this time of the movement restrictions, there's so much you can do, but there's nothing to stop you from praying for others. So this karma that we created from our past life in this life will not go away through time. The reason is because karma has no expiry date. Okay, it doesn't have a shelf life. So lessons learned. So we must listen and take the Dharma to heart to eliminate our afflictions and eradicate our habitual tendencies. So a lot of this is already shared this point, so I won't cover that. So our afflictions and thus like ignorance in the depth of our minds are invisible and must be eliminated, so that like the Buddha who is tranquil and calm. So you see, our afflictions, major afflictions or cause afflictions, they are easy to identify. And sometimes I'm sure you find across someone who is really quiet, demure, and oh gosh, and the person is so pure. And so those major cause and afflictions would have taken, but then in some situation and suddenly realize, oh, I didn't know that he or she is like that. So these are the plus-like affliction that when certain externality of condition arises, they will surface. And that's the reason why we need to be so aware of ourselves. What is this dust-like ignorance? And that's why, practice, we have to go to ignorance can be identified and eliminated. So the Buddha has already calmly dwelling in tranquility, which I spent, I think, about 10 minutes explaining to you all what is my understanding of this state of tranquility, peacefully abiding in the forest and the fields. And still, peacefully abiding in the forest is a metaphor of that state of mind. But and as for the first Buddha, the state is whether the forests or the fields are there, the state still remains, the state of tranquility. So I described in the Sutra of Infinite Meanings. So this state of mind we must only work towards. We cannot allow our habitual tendencies to always remain with us, because when we do, these habitual tendencies, the moment conditions change, our habitual tendencies will arise. Why? Because desire and emotion, right? Desire in the heart, emotion in the mind. So then our afflictions will then arise, and if not, we won't be able to purify our past. So that's why when you learn, first of all, it says learn to accept it. Learning to accept it, learn to deal with it, and then you eliminate that, so that we do not allow our afflictions to continue to our nature of true suchness. So in contemplation, people change their lives for two reasons. So we are undertaken in this path to deal with the karma and whatever life becomings that come to us. So, and each one of us, although we may be walking in the same path, we all have different karmic blueprints. But important thingly is when we walk the path, we change our ways. But people change their lives, and for two reasons. One is because either the minds are open or their hearts are broken. And you will observe people who come to the path, they're only one of these two reasons. So guide others to be a seeker who opens one's mind. You see, unless you're a seeker, you will always find excuses of why you are not able to listen to the Dhamma. When each one of us have our own maras to prevent one from seeking the Dhamma. Okay, so we understand ourselves. I mean, right? Oh, I'm busy. I don't know time. I have all these conditions. But a seeker, like what the Buddha did, he left the home to seek the answers for the truth. Obviously, we have our own condition that we cannot give up. We are householders. So therefore, we have to try the best way we can. And I think I can say that in Tzu Chi and in also some other Buddhist organization I've come across, they make even more convenient now by having recordings by the master, just like we have having right now. So therefore, if one wants to change one's life, you open and change the mind. So unless the mind is open and change, it's very difficult for one to forget about changing, to seek the understanding of the Dhamma. So no medicine can save a negative mind. But when the mind realizes awaken, no negativity can poison the mind. So a relationship, have a mindful relationship. An ordinary mind wavers through the flux of mental states arising from the contact with the external conditions as well as mental afflictions. So this is the other end of this, the end of enlightened mind, that to the Buddha's mind is in a state of tranquility. So for us as ordinary beings, our mind wavers. So why does it waver? Because the waver because of the flow of the mental states. So you remember the 12 cyclic existence, right? So when we have this state, when in contact with external conditions, then this mental afflictions arising from the seven consciousness of habitual tendencies will arise. So unless we elevate ourselves beyond the mind consciousness level, we'll be living in the worldly conventions, and the worldly conventions with all boundaries all over the place. So therefore, we have to rise above that. We may live in the underworldly convention, but our consciousness at spiritual level. So the state of falsehood arises for many. And for those who are in training, reality arises as one knows it to be. So reality arises as one knows it to be, because that's what is real. I can see things, I can see the form, like this is what I really feel. So that's the reality as one knows it to be. And what really knows it to be could be a state of falsehood. So that's why we have people take each other to court, because I believe that's real. But the other side said, no, that is not what it is. And that same goes in life, in our daily life, where we do not discern what is real and what is the truth. And and all this is because of the raging skandhas. Because you know the Dharma and you know what the truth should be and how you need to move. Okay, Gan En brothers and sisters, thank you.
Gan En, unlimited gratitude to our great Brother Chin, for always there to guide us with all this marvelous sharing and open our mind and stimulate our mind. Yes, yeah, indeed, another great session with Brother Chin. Yeah, can't get so much of Brother Chin. I can't get enough of Brother Chin every day. Yeah,